I would help if I had myself switched on. Hello everyone, how is everyone? I'm just myself just now. I'm waiting for Nick and Rosie to appear. So bear ways. We'll see we've got one in the chat. Come on and say hello so that I know you that are seeing this. So tonight guys we're talking about where does the term serial killer come from? So it'll be an interesting one. So how's everybody been? I'll just wait for Rosie and Nick. Oh, here's Rosie.
Hey.
Hey love, how are you?
Sorry, I had to use the
Hey
bathroom.
Christine, how you doing? So I'm just sharing this out, guys. So tonight's going to be a really interesting one because, you know, we talk about serial killers, right? But where does the actual term come from? Like, and I got a really interesting book, and I guess reading this book, it kind of made me think, where does the term actually come from? And this is what this book's about. It breaks it down, and it actually tells you where the term serial killer comes from. So it's a really interesting read, folks. Hey Morty, hey Lois, hey Rita, are you stuck by yourself? I was until Rosie came, and I'm sure we'll see Nick at 9:30. I like to take the piss out of him for that. Still suffering, I'm afraid, on the set. Oh, that's a lot of antibiotics, Christine. Good luck, my friend. And get well, even, not good luck. Well, good luck with your CT scan, but get well soon, my honey. Hey, Adam. How are you, my friend? So, while we're waiting for Nick and I'm sharing and everything else, I just want to say to you guys, tomorrow, Frighteners is 1 AM, Friday into Saturday. We've got David Dean's The Unseen Realm. I am so excited about this one. I cannot wait. I have so much respect for these guys, and it's well worth staying up a late night for them. Also, on the 1st of June, guys, I am proud to announce Wes Coleman is coming on to the Crime Show. I am absolutely, I'm like a Wayne in the sweetie shop. I'll be counting down the days and all till Wes comes on. Wes is a good friend of mine, I love Wes. So Rosie, how's your week been, my love?
Oh, good. So far, busy. You?
So, really quiet, my friend, really quiet back at college this week, so it's kind of been just getting everything done before the last. Thanks, Nigel. You're very welcome, Christine. So, the term serial killer. Now, this book I read, Rosie. Honestly, you should read it. I'll send you the name of it.
Okay. I also looked it up too.
And the book actually informed me, which, you know what, I'm no shy in the mitten when I've learnt something new, and I believe that every day's a school day. But it was actually the FBI that brought up the term serial killer, and I learned that there's actually a mass distinctive between serial killer and mass killer, mass murderer.
Yeah,
But no, not many, a lot of people know that.
I've actually
There
been
is
arguing
actually
with people today about that. There were some people arguing with me today about what a serial killer is and a mass murderer.
I think people are quite, like, when it comes to the terms, they're quite, obviously, they think it's the same thing, but it's not. Because serial killer, you can kill up to the amount of people. Mass murderer, you're taking out a shitload of people, but you only do it once.
Yeah, kind of like the BTK killer killed that whole family. His first murder was a mass murder, but when he kept doing it and it was a chain that could be connected of repetitive murder, then that became a serial. He became a serial killer.
It was actually a special agent in the FBI called Robert Ressler. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. who used the term serial homicide in 1974. So it's actually not been that long since the term serial killer has been thingy. He was actually doing a lecture at the Police Staff Academy in Bramshill, Hampshire, in England, and that's where the actual term came up. Yeah, don't argue with Rosie. She'll knock your butt. She will. She will.
I'll have to go a long ways to do it.
So what is? I mean, you look at the term serial killer, right? And the serial killer, I don't know what it means in the US, but in the UK, a murderer who repeatedly commits the same offence, typically following a characteristic, predictable behaviour pattern.
Yeah.
But it's a really, really interesting. In this book that I'm reading, guys, basically it also gives you like myths and legends as well, which is really, really, really good. Because some of the facts that I read, like the myth and legend of that most serial killers are loners. That's not true. When you look at obviously serial killers like BLT, oh, here comes the notorious DIC. Oh, sorry, it's Nick.
What's up, guys?
B.I.G.
How you guys doing?
How are you? I'm good, honey. Even better to see you. I see that you. I see that you've kept the notorious three-legged. Oh, he's took the three-legged out.
I don't know who put that in, but I got rid of it.
that was me when I was messing about in Frighteners the other night.
Oh, that was.
We were.
You're right.
Remember, we've got two. For everybody that never seen Frighteners the other night, we were getting it to Nick tight. Poor Nick went off with
you were
the biggest red face of his life.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
So what we were saying, instead of having two Willies, Terry, we've now got three Willies, Nick. It was absolutely Rosie, you would have pushed yourself laughing.
Oh my god!
How you been, Nick?
We went from like a very serious show to all of a sudden it just went out of control.
Literally, it started off with good intentions, and then poor Nick could get a severe written. Christy says, and to think that mass murder and serial killers have been in existence since the dawn of man, we would not been told about it. No social media, newspapers, etc. This is very true. Is Nick naked or something? We can't see him. Oh, no, Eric wants to know if you're naked, Eric.
I'm getting my green.
Nick.
No, it's because right now I just got the green screen up and I have to reset this whole thing with OBS to get my camera working again. So I'll be on just another second.
I'm curious, Nick.
Just looking at that question now.
I'm curious, Nick. See your green screen, is it like one of the massive big green screens that you would find in like news reporters and things like that?
Yeah, I got this one from I think I got it actually as a Christmas gift about 2 years ago. I think it was ordered from Amazon. So it's not terribly expensive. I think it was the one I got, the one I have is like probably costs about $30-$40. It wasn't really, it's not hugely expensive.
Nick, don't be shy. We're all grown-ups, Christine says. That's because, know what that is, Christine? He's hiding the love bites. That's why he's not turning the old camera on.
Well, it makes you feel better.
Yeah. Have you got your hair tied up today, or is your hair all brushed back?
No, I actually, literally just a few minutes before I got on here, I just got out. the shower too. So it's actually
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me you had another haircut.
You cut it though, right?
No, I combed it too, so that's why it looks really nice right now.
Lois said Notorious DICK. You stop putting me in, Eric. Right. Chrissy's asking who's been sucking at your neck.
I am not
Because
going to that question. No way. I am not touching that one.
Nick Cowan probably. So yeah, you never missed much, guys. We were only talking about serial killers, and Rosie was saying about the debate that somebody was having with her today about obviously the difference between serial killer and mass murderers, and not many people know there is actually a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
so what was the person saying?
They say that there was like the difference between like serial killers and mass murderers, like exactly what the difference is when they sound almost identical in a way because they're killing multiple people either way. Don't forget my flashlight. He's referring to when I was investigating Robinson Woods on Friday. That did get actually a little. What's that?
I was just gonna say how I remember it is. Do you know what a mass grave is?
Mm-hmm.
In a
it's like
cemetery, like a mass grave is a bunch of bodies in one spot.
Right, I'll be back in a bit, guys. Give me 2 minutes.
Like a mass.
You can talk about me.
Okay. That what in tarnations that Lois Scar. I just can't stand her. I can't stand
assholes.
I've been called worse. Way worse. But like a mass grave is like a bunch of bodies in one spot. That's how I remember it. And this is like for people that don't know, because I'm sure you know, Nick. Like mass bodies or mass graves, is like usually unidentified soldiers from like a war are buried in a mass grave. So a mass murder is a bunch of bodies in one spot, basically, like in one hit, in one blow, in one attack, a bunch of bodies. Not like strung out over different dates or different times or different murders, but like one spot is mass murders, and then serial's not in one spot and not
all at the same time.
Yeah, it's like separate incidences.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you also think about it too. Not only like you said, how you just described it, like where it's like burial, like an area where a bunch of bodies are put together from wars, for example. That can also be the same too for like people who died of disease, like the Black Plague, for example. They had what was known as plague pits. I mean, what wasn't murder, but it was the same type of definition of a mass grave.
Chantel in the house. What? I can't do Dan, so you've got no chance tonight, my friend. Hitler wasn't a serial killer, he was a mass murderer. You tell him, Lewis, I will read it. The serial killer chooses his victims, a mass murderer. That's it. Going back to Hitler, you find that is actually a good point, because he did take kill.
A mass murderer can still choose their victims, like a mass murderer can choose to specific people. They can.
Well, and when you think about it too, like I don't know if he's ever actually done it, but he, if you kind of look carefully into Hitler's history, he never really actually, committed really any murders himself. It was his Nazi party that were the ones, if I'm saying this correctly, it was his Nazi party that carried out the hits, carried out the murders, executions, but it's literally no different, obviously, than like a crime boss or a gang almost, because you may have one individual out there that could never, not have any part of his DNA, his or her DNA, like connected at all to any deaths. But even though for in this case with Hitler, even though he wasn't the one who actually killed anybody, he is still responsible because he ordered out these murders. In this case, the deaths of millions of people. So that does still consider them, whether there's DNA connected to you or not to these murders. You're still considered a mass murderer because you're
And can be
responsible
convicted of it.
for.
So would you
Correct,
guys say
yes.
that Charles Manson was the exact same then? Because a lot of people will turn around and say that Charles Manson was a serial killer. He wasn't a serial killer. I don't think he was. He was like Hitler. He instructed people to do it. If you
Yeah.
actually look at what Manson
Thing. Yeah,
done,
Charles
he's
Manson-
only... Sorry, Dol.
No, I was going to say, I actually agree with you on that. Charles Manson, to me, I think was more of a mass murderer as well than a serial killer. Because, again, that's another primary example of, even though he didn't commit these, what is it? If you drown someone in a tub of cornflakes, does that make you a
That
serial
just
killer?
makes you weird and wasteful of
That's a good one.
food. No.
Trust you. Trust you, Chantel.
Yeah, he's talking. Okay. Yeah, they usually have a signature.
It's alright, Taylor Louise, don't worry. So what were you
Charles
saying?
Manson
Sorry.
is basically that same. That's another primary example of that. Even though he didn't really commit those murders, he still ordered them, and that still makes him just as responsible for those murders. So again, another good example. Not wasteful.
Sorry.
Eat the cornflakes after.
I said, yummy body fluids. Ugh.
Oh, I mean, what do you think
I know
about
this is going to
the-
sound. I know this is going to. I'm sorry, Lois.
It's alright, my love, you carry on.
I know this is going
Why
to
are
sound
my
really
cornflakes
bad.
green and brown?
I know this is going to sound really bad, but I was just going to say it anyway. This whole thing about drowning someone in a tub of cornflakes, at least that person died with something good to eat. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And this, guys, is why I brought Nick in as my second. I know what kind of body fluid Chantel wants. Eric!
I don't even know what I don't even want to know what he just said.
No, Nick, you cover the young ears. Don't you watch any of this, son?
You know what? Eileen always says to me that apparently I'm 10 years old. I mean, talk to her; she'll tell you that.
What do you guys think? Right, here's one of the myths, right? That I think that, as I was saying, myths are that one of the myths are that serial killers are dysfunctional loners. And what they try to say is that the majority of serial killers are actually not reclusive. They're actually social misfits who live alone. They're not monsters. They may not appear strange. Many serial killers actually hide in plain sight within their communities. Serial murderers often have families and homes and gainfully employed and appear like to be just like you and me. Because many serial murderers can blend in so effortlessly, they're often sometimes overlooked by law enforcement and the public. Prime example, Robert Yates, who killed 17 prostitutes in, Spokane, Washington area during the 1990s. He was married with 5 kids. He lived in a middle-class neighbourhood. Was a decorated US Army National Guard helicopter pilot. During the time of the murders, he routinely patronised the prostitutes, and several of his victims knew each other. He buried one of his victims in his yard beneath his bedroom window, and he was eventually caught and arrested and tried, and pled guilty to 13 of the murders. So it just shows you. Hey, Parker.
Yeah, I mean, basically, that's kind of the scary part about when it comes to certain serial killers. And I probably have said this before, but you have people out there, when you look at serial killers, and also like when you look at like for example, the slasher movies. In the slasher movies, they're always like people, kids always being chased around by a guy in a mask, or they may have some type of deformity or something like that, or just have a very inhuman kind of vibe to them. And there have been a few. I mean, yes, there have been obviously a few cases like that in real life, but most serial killers are no different than us. It could be the person sitting right next to you. It's just a completely normal person, not an inhuman or horrific or deformed type monsters like what we see in the movies a lot. I have 30 years experience. I have to tell that
Chrissy says Hitler.
Tonight.
Christine says Hitler sorted out men and women who were psychopaths, schizophrenic, mentally ill, etc. He knew he had to find people to fulfill his sick instructions. Dennis Nielsen was a former police officer, then worked in a job centre while killing.
I'll have to look him up. I don't know. Who he is.
Actually, I gotta point this out too. Again, what Christine said. You know what? This with what she said about that Hitler was looking for people who were that's what we're kind of seeing now, actually, somewhat today, because obviously, as we all know all too well about the war between Ukraine and Russia, that Putin, you guys probably heard this, that he has been taking in people who have committed such horrific crimes, because he doesn't want to give up, wanting Russia to lose. So we're actually kind of seeing something like that right now. History repeating itself. In this case, Putin bringing in psychopaths, murderers, rapists, even child molesters, kidnappers, any people, basically all those people who have committed the worst of the worst crimes. We're seeing that happen today, right now in Russia.
And do you know what? No offense to anybody that comes from Russia, and God love them. I think the world taking a really bad stance, right? And I had time to reflect on that. That obviously, okay, it's Russia. Okay, it was Putin. But to cut off, no, everybody in Russia wanted that war. So it was cutting off, kicking them out the Olympics. Was it Olympics they get kicked out of? I think it was Eurovision and all that as well, right? And it was just like, oh my God, this is not about Russia. Not about obviously the Russian people, because most of them didn't want this, except Putin. And do you know what? Putin's going to end up like Saddam Hussein. Seriously, that's the way he's going to go.
He's kind of in the same category, if you think about it, as Hitler is. He may not be, taking all these, not be killing anybody, but he is responsible for both the deaths of Ukrainian and Russian soldiers, both sides, and especially the Russian soldiers, who've been manipulated, who don't know the actual truth. So that makes Putin responsible for both sides, basically both sides of the border.
Oh God, I don't know about you guys, but over in the UK, we're getting this Sunday. We're having on our phones. It's an emergency alert system that they're bringing. I don't know if it's just to the UK. I think it is, where it's going to tell you when there's war. Thingy. It's supposed to be happening at 3 p.m. And your phone basically comes up with an emergency alert message, and it's like you can't use your phone until you hit it off. I'll probably forget and I'll get into panic. You'll see me. I'll be getting my rowboat to America.
Do what for America? You say robot?
A rowboat. Get my rowboat. Get my boat.
Oh, God.
Right, Rosie, you're off a quiet tonight.
Oh yeah, well, I didn't want to interrupt you or whatever, but I did look up Charles Manson. It said he didn't get coined as a serial killer, but he was convicted of multiple different murders because he's the one that ordered the people to do it. So, like, no matter if you're mass murderer, serial murderer, singular murderer, or you tell people and brainwash people and order them to kill someone, you can still get convicted of the murder yourself. So,
The idea is that if you have plans of wanting to kill somebody deliberately, whether you do the act or not, that's still considered murder, and you're still responsible for it. Putin is more
He
dangerous than
definitely
people
is.
think. If thinks his
I
time is
wouldn't
up.
speak that into existence, but I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I'm not speaking that into existence right now.
Right.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Robert.
Hey.
Guys, not to change the subject for just a quick second, speaking of emergency alerts on my phone, looks like we're under a tornado watch again. So like 7 or 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we have some reporting too later this evening. Mm-hmm.
Don't use to blow away on that show.
Yeah, right now it's overcast. It is warmer out. I mean, it's overcast. It's warmer out. It is kind of windy, but nothing yet. So it's been relatively quiet. This is going till I think the watch is in effect until like 7 or 8 o'clock. So we'll just have to see how things look over the next couple hours.
Oh my God! Please stay safe, guys. I do worries about you when you always say about tornado wardens.
Oklahoma
get nailed. Oh.
Yeah. And a few days before that, I guess last week.
I didn't know anything about that.
Last weekend, there was hail like this size, Nick, like golf ball size.
Holy shit!
In Oklahoma, like over the weekend, I think. Mm-hmm. Not here, where I'm like in places in Oklahoma.
I mean, I've seen some of the snowballs that you guys have. It's fucking deadly. It looks deadly.
Hail that big, if it hits you in the head, it has to hurt. Like if it hits somebody anywhere on your body, it's like.
Oh yeah, and if they're larger, you can get killed. Just by a few hits of those, because they're like slamming down to earth at 100 miles an hour.
Oh God! I
heard them a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Is somebody opening fire on me?" Because it was like rapid hailstorm. Hail just started falling out of nowhere, and no one even had said that hail was like. I follow the weather chasers around here in the local area, and they didn't say anything about hail. It just started coming all of a sudden. It almost felt like you were getting fired at. Rapid fire was coming, but it was hail.
Right, because it's so loud when it hits.
Fast and ding, 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 like it sounded like bullets.
Oh God, that's no good. Hitler brainwashed German people into thinking how he thought. He made them see Jewish people as a threat, people who needed to be exterminated for them to survive. It's terrible, Christine. Nick, if you have to go to safety, stay safe. Chantel, a mile wide wedge through.
Whoa! I'm assuming it's Sean. I'm sure that's in Oklahoma, right, Rosie? If you're familiar with that.
Yep, it's in Oklahoma. It's near Oklahoma City, very close to Oklahoma City, which is crazy because my aunt is here. I just saw her today, and she's from that area, so she was here when it happened.
Oh my God!
I mean, good thing.
Derek says,
thank goodness that she was there at the time, but all this weather you need to move well, Americans stay away from San Andreas fault line. Yeah. I heard California got hit by an earthquake. George Upland made a post about it earlier today that they had an earthquake in California. Yeah.
Oh wow! I really hope you guys, really hope you guys will be all right. Because honestly, really in the UK we are goddamn lucky. We don't realise how lucky we are compared to you guys when you have tornadoes, hurricanes, snowballs that are coming like golf balls out the sky. In fact, we actually had an interesting conversation a wee while ago, and me and Stephen were talking about the weather and how COVID, like, you couldn't write a book in it. Literally, in the UK alone, we were actually hotter than Spain. During the first lockdown, it was like literally, and we don't get the best summers always here. Not as much as what I was when I was away. But during the first COVID, literally, honest to God, it was like the sun was splitting the trees. I got burnt 3 days in a row.
What was it? 3 days in a row?
I got sunburned 3 days in a row.
Oh, did you really? Ow! Ow!
I literally
just
wore a
looked
dress.
I just looked at the video of there's a video of the tornado that went through Shawnee. Holy cow! I mean, it's huge. I mean, and this was at nighttime when this occurred, so you can not even see it except for the lightning and power flashes. And even when it does show up, it is Chantel's absolutely right. It is a monster. I mean, not even lightning or power flashes can even illuminate it. It's too wide. It's a monster.
I'm like in the middle of that. Because like 2 weeks ago, okay, so Shawnee's like east of me. And then Little Rock is the other direction. And 2 weeks ago, Little Rock got hit really bad. Little Rock, Arkansas.
Hi, Carol. Welcome to the show. Oh, me and Nick does that again. The same.
What's that?
We did the same thing. I went to hit it and you hit it at the same time.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Some Robert said about earthquakes.
No, that was him taking the piss. We have earthquakes every Saturday night in Scotland up all over the place.
Very quickly, I just want to go back to what Sarah here says. When you hear both talking about the weather in America, it makes you think how lucky weather in the UK is boring. Oh wait, Chantel actually just wrote this down. So the UK has more tornadoes per year per land area, although usually weaken over country fields.
It's nothing really compared, Chantel, to like America when you're getting like F5s and F4s and everything.
Yeah. See, Lois, I probably told you about this before, but from what I've heard is I probably told you about this before, Lois, is that yes, the UK does at times have its share of tornadoes, but the last major tornado to have ever affected any part of the UK, I don't even think it was. I thought it was London, but I think it was actually another part of England. But last major tornado to have ever struck any part of the UK was back in 1954. And since then, there hasn't been another major one, in over the last almost 70 years.
Ayrshire was the same today. It was really, really warm, Carol. Why do you think I want to move to Scotland? Don't you bring the tornadoes with you, Eric?
That's why.
It rains a lot in Wales. It rains a lot in Scotland, let me tell you. But yeah, I mean, I guess we're dead lucky that way. I mean, we've, which I find quite boring because I'm really into wanting to go and storm chase. Like I'm people would run that way for a tornado, and I would run the opposite way to be the camera route just to get it. So I can understand why people are fascinated with weather. Though what I don't quite get is when you see these people that stand there when tsunamis are coming in, and you can see the big wave coming, and it goes like that way, and then people are standing there, and then they run at the last minute. That's crazy.
I didn't know about this.
Imagine that's by must have been. Is that you talking about the snow that they get that in Russia? It can be really, really cold in Russia, really bad, the coldness.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, I know they got heavy snowstorms. I just don't know if they have like a lot of that severe type of weather over there.
Oh, sorry, Nick. I'll leave the buttons alone.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm like, hands up. Me too. Like, Nicolaipa Roberts coming back up.
Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I've seen it raining. It was like someone put a ruler down rain on one side, dry on the other.
Scotland's the only place I know that can get 4 seasons in one day. It's funny. And that's true, Nick. In Rosie, we had rain one day, I'll never forget it. Rain, sun, snow, and wind. It was funny.
Wow. That's
You
nuts.
keep your hands to yourself. As you can see, I'm no touching Nick.
Oh man! All right.
Yeah, those are severe types.
Oh geez, can't tell. Yeah, no, severe types USA, but I'll be in week nonetheless. Look it up. It's also by land area. If you put UK and USA, you can understand it's like saying that there are the same, same amount of cockroaches around.
Antarctica.
Aye, Carol. Scotland it's got its moments where whether it's funny could be down to the rabbit and the headlight situation, totally. Wisconsin gets weather like Scotland, but our winters are colder. Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, weather fascinates me. I love weather. Do you know when it's really, really windy? And I'm very lucky, I suppose, because I live in a seaside town. You know what I love to do? I love to go and watch the waves come up. Like that. Seriously, I've got a massive phobia of deep water, but I love watching waves that will come at yon height and right across.
That's awesome. See, we sometimes do that too, actually, over here, because where I live, obviously, is nowhere close to the ocean. We have, of course, Lake Michigan, so we can see the whole thing. We can see the same thing.
Yeah.
We got that same type of thing happening up in Lake Michigan. And I'm only 20 minutes away from the lake.
Ooh.
That makes me want to say great mistakes instead of Great Lakes.
Yeah.
In boot camp, it's like great mistakes. It's boot camp for the Navy's in Great Lakes. You're like, great mistakes.
Yeah.
That's what everybody called it.
Where did all the I know, Robert, we always go off topic. The killers went to one side.
I was only just originally wanted to make it quick just to let everyone know like my situation right now. But
Nick, you should know when we go off topic, it goes. Pshung.
Yep.
Oh, would love to live near the sea. It's got its advantages, Carol. Where I stay, I'm actually quite lucky because I've got the Stevenson Beach, the Drawson Beach, and the Silcoats Beach. It's literally what it's like how to describe it to you guys in America is it's 3 towns that are interlinked. So it's literally it runs as a straight road. So sometimes you get confused where you are. Yeah, it's actually really good, but I've got so many choices where to go and view the sea.
He has a beard. Now he's back. Wherever the weather, it's important to know the temperature.
Oh, check this out.
The body. That's true.
What do you know about temperature?
As crazy as it sounds, I mean, the weather sometimes kind of plays a role in certain murders, including serial killers. So it's
discovering the body.
That she brought that up.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really, really cool, Sarah Louise. Good job Nick didn't go for a pee. We would be checking all our bowel move.
Bowel movements.
But I mean, here's another one. Serial killers are only motivated by sex. All serial murderers are not sexually based. There are many other motives for serial murders, including anger, thrill, financial gain, and attention seeking. Here's a case for you. In the Washington, D.C. area, serial sniper case, John Allen Muhammad, a former U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, and Lee Boyd Mulvo, killed primarily for anger and thrill motives. They were able to terrorise the greater Washington D.C. metro area for 3 weeks, shooting, killing 13 victims, killing 10 of them. The communicated you think I had a few tonight. They communicated with the police by leaving notes, and they attempted to extort money to stop the shootings. They are suspected in a number of other shootings in 7 other states across America.
Yeah, they usually refer to those type of killers as thrill killers. They don't always have a reason of wanting to kill people. Sometimes they just do it for the ultimate thrill of it. They get that high, that adrenaline rush. So it's and those are probably the worst because they are doing it without reason.
Yeah, that's why sometimes if something like bad happens in their life or triggers them, that it can cause them to act out by committing one of those.
Usually go to Saltcoats and their beaches. Love to sit and watch in the water, especially at night. It's very windy in Saltcoats. Definitely, Carol. It's honestly, it's the best. Especially, see, sometimes because of where the train line runs, it's like literally it goes by the one of the beaches. So when the waves are really, really bad, the trains can be off because the waves are that high. They're actually coming right over the wall and straight into the line. So that's why they halt the trains sometimes. There's jellyfish in the ocean. Here we go with jellyfish. I love the ocean, but them jellies can swim and I don't like my odds. Well, you do know, Chantel, that if you get...
Go ahead.
If you get...
No, you go ahead, then I'll say what I need.
No, it's alright, love. If you get stung with a jellyfish, just get somebody to piss on you.
Yeah. I was going to say, Chantel, since you live in South Africa, don't you guys also have the gray white sharks in that area? Because I've heard the waters off South Africa are notorious for sharks.
The bull shark, tiger shark, one of those.
Yeah.
Lotion, the only one to stop me. There's a girl named Willow. I'll have a word with Willow. Tell her off. Stop her shenanigans.
I'll be sure and block her.
Was Lee Harvey also a killer or a patsy? What's a patsy?
Like a wimp, like a weenie, like a
patsy. The heck is that?
A cake eater, a wimp, a titty baby.
I wonder if he means pansy. Hey, that's what I was going to say, Lois. Piece of alkaline. It's so true.
Yeah,
but one other important thing to kind of bring up since we're talking about serial killers. I actually was just looking this up. Actually, this might be someone that we should probably talk about at some point, in a future episode. But I was actually just recently looking at I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Coed killer.
Yep.
What was his name?
Sick dude.
Yeah, the Coed guy. Yeah, he's still alive today. I mean, he is a big guy. He's even taller than Edmund Kemper. That's what I was thinking of. Edmund Kemper, which, by the way, was now nearly 50 years ago.
A different guy. Yeah, he was a big dude. Huge.
No. Yeah, Edmund Kemper, he was the Coed killer, which, again, now nearly 50 years ago to the day he was finally caught for his murders. And the way out, he kind of like murdered, he killed, I think, like eight people. They were all women. Most of them were college students. One was a high school student, and 2 other victims, which actually one of them was his ultimate target, was his mother. He was among one of those type of serial killers where, what's that?
He killed his grandparents first. Like, he killed them too.
Yeah, he killed his grand. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, thanks for. I forgot. Yeah,
his little old grandpa and his grandma.
They were like, yeah, he killed his grandparents when he was like only 15 years old, but they released him at the age of 21 because they thought he was no longer a threat to society because he was now over 18 and he turned 21. So those murders basically were like expunged from his record. So, which was a fatal mistake. But if you look at someone like Edmund Kemper, though, he really didn't go out when he committed his murders. He didn't really go out as a thrill killing. It was almost like kind of in a kind of way of practicing his ultimate goal, which was his ultimate target in the end was his mother, because unfortunately he was one of those killers that was abused. He was looked down upon by his mom. He never got the same type of beneficial childhood or life that his sisters had got. In fact, she was still kind of being abusive even when he was an adult, because
And that was why his dad left. His dad said that he couldn't stand the mom. Like the dad left because of the mom.
And he did stay with his dad for a few times, which during the time that he was with his dad, it was paradise. You know, there was no problems then.
Mm-hmm.
There was no abuse, there was no bullying. It was utopia for him. But when he had to head back, you know, to live with his mom, that's when all hell broke loose. And one of the things that his mother had said, as you know, for him as an adult, was, you'll never get married. You'll never meet the perfect woman, because she worked at a nearby university and she refused to have introduce him to any of her female students. And so I wouldn't necessarily call him a thrill killer, but it was like practice, because eventually he targeted his mother, and in the end he achieved his ultimate goal. But after he killed his mom, and you don't see this with a lot of serial killers, but I
would actually possibly profile him as an incel.
Yeah.
Like
because when you think about it too, because this all occurred, I think it was down in Southern California, or Central California, I think. And when he decided to flee to Colorado after he killed. But what was interesting about him was, because most serial killers usually are doing it for the thrill, or they'll try to do whatever they possibly can to try to cover their tracks and get away with it. In this case, with Edmund Kemper, he could have gotten away with what he had done, because at one point while he was driving to Colorado, he had turned on the radio to see if there were any news about these murders, and there was nothing. There was no report, or not even any disappearances. So I think for him, eventually was, well, actually, no, when he did not hear, he actually called the police and had confessed that he committed these murders. And he essentially, he was trying to turn himself in, and the police didn't even believe him the first time until he had given more details and he turned himself in. So I think he's kind of a rare type of person. I think to him, it wasn't, in the end, I think it was just guilt that kind of convinced something. You know what? After what I've done, I better turn myself in, and I don't deserve to be out in society. So it's a very rare type of killer that you see who starts feeling kind of remorse, regret, guilt,
and turns herself in.
No matter how. What's that?
And it's very rare that a serial killer turns their self in.
Yeah, it's just I think he just could not live with himself, even if he could have gotten away with it, that he took these innocent lives. Although he still says to this day that he doesn't regret killing his mom, but he regrets all the other victims that he killed. So, and when he went to trial, he even requested the death penalty, but at that time, that was when California had abolished the death penalty. So he was sentenced to 8 concurrent life sentences. He still is alive today, and he's still in prison. And he's, believe it or not, he's actually been eligible for parole a number of times, but he has turned each and every one of them down. I think he's actually the one that doesn't want to be released.
Maybe he knows that he can't. Maybe he knows that he might do it again.
He probably knows that he can't, but I think at the same time, again, even 50 years after what he's done, he still feels absolutely terrible, and he's basically saying, I deserve to be here. I don't deserve to be out in society.
Yeah.
This is society would never be able to, he said society would never, forgive what I've done, and that, they would never accept me back. So, that's how he's kind of viewed things, and that's what's kept him in prison for the rest of his life. It's more or less his choice of wanting to be out. I mean, staying in and wanting to get out.
What when you guys were talking there, one of the myths that jumped out to me was serial killers want to get caught. Offenders committing a crime for the first time are an experience. They gain experience and confidence with each new offence, eventually succeeding with a few mistakes or problems. While most serial killers plan their offences more thoroughly than other criminals, the learning curve is still very steep. They must select target, approach, control and dispose of their victims. The logistics involved in committing a murder and disposing of a body can be very complex, especially when there are multiple sites involved. As serial killers continue to offend without being captured, they can become empowered, feeling they will never be identified. As the series continues, the killers may begin to take shortcuts when committing their crimes. This often causes the killers to take more chances, leading to the identification by law enforcement. It is not that serial killers want to get caught, they feel that they can't get caught. And the one that stands out to me when we're talking about this is the gentleman that we covered, the Mark Twitchell, the guy that made up dating profiles to lure men in. And it's as he describes, the feeling of, okay, when he first did it, he was paranoid, but it was also the adrenaline, knowing what he'd done and going home and leading a normal life.
Yeah, I don't think that he had the confidence to be out on his own either, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Ripper. Did he stop or die? Very really. Well, no, really, Robert, because when you think about it, that's actually another myths about serial killers. They say that serial killers cannot stop killing. It's been widely believed that once serial killers start killing, they cannot stop. There are, however, some serial killers who stop murdering altogether because they've been caught. In these instances, there are events or circumstances in the offender's life that inhibit them from pursuing more victims. These can include increased participation in family activities, sexual substitutions, and other diversions. For prime example, well, in fact, there's two prime examples of this. The BT killer, Dennis Rader. Hey, Lauren. Murdered 10 victims from 1974 to 1991. He did not kill any other victims prior to being caught in 2005. During interviews conducted by law enforcement, Rader admitted to engaging in autoerotic activities as a substitute for his killings. The other one is Jeffrey Golton, killed his first victim in 1986 and his next victim in 1991. He did not kill another victim and was captured in 2002. Gorton engaged in cross-dressing and trigger warning, masturbatory activities as well as consensual sex with his wife. So it's quite a really interesting when you actually dig deep and you actually look at the terms and you actually look at the myths and the legends. It's really, really interesting stuff. Makes you think. There is another myth, but I'm not gonna.
Very disturbing too.
There is another myth, but I really don't want to get into it because it crosses the whole line of race and everything, and I'm not getting this whole discussion.
Well, there's actually one other thing I wanted to point out too for you, Lois, is that with some serial killers, like the way how they also target their victims. Some of them are also for some of the most craziest reasons. It's not always just an act of revenge or a sexual reason or or just a thrill kill. There's also you got some of those killers who kill for the most craziest reasons. Or believe it or not, I just looked this up, but this whole thing I was talking about, like I said, with Edmund Kemper, right? Well, it turned out, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this guy, but his murders actually overlapped with another serial killer literally right around the same area in Central California during 1972 and 73, and that was Herbert Mullen. He had killed 13 people, and it actually, but the murders from both these guys, it added a confusion to the police investigations because it was literally in the same area, and both were arrested a few weeks of each other, which brings the total of deaths between because it was 10 victims of Edmund Kemper, 13 of Herbert Mullen. That brings the full death toll to 21 people. But Herbert Mullen's reason why he killed was because, as it says here, he claimed it prevented earthquakes. And he thought he was saving lives by offering sacrifices. And he killed people because there were earthquakes. And if that wasn't enough, it says here that, first off, it's kind of this is kind of bizarre. There's a reason why he thought it was preventing earthquakes. Oh, no, I didn't.
Sorry,
there's
like really heavy rain and there's like really loud thunder.
Oh, boy. But it says here, for example, here's the reason why I think he had this. Here's the reason why I think he had this obsession with earthquakes. His birthday, ironically enough, was on April 18th, which was the anniversary of the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, which he thought was very significant. He had believed that prior to his murders that the Vietnam War had produced enough American deaths to forestall earthquakes as a blood sacrifice to nature.
I don't know who this killer is, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but in this case, though, it's with the war winding down by late 1972, from an American perspective, that is, he would need to start killing people in order to have enough deaths to keep a calamitous earthquake away. It was for this reason he later said that his father, through telepathy, had ordered him to take some lives, which I think his dad was already dead by then. So it was just for the craziest reasons.
Did they give him a nickname?
You know, surprisingly, I'm looking right now. He is one of the few serial killers that doesn't seem to have a nickname. It's just Herbert Mullen. And he was, in fact, he actually just recently he died. He was okay. So his imprisonment was okay. So he wouldn't have gotten the death penalty either because again, California didn't have it at that time. It was abolished. So he was he was sentenced to life.
But I can't remember his name. Like the name doesn't like pop out. But
there was one other person. I'm trying to look for that right now. But yeah, very quickly it says he was sentenced to life in prison. He was denied parole 8 times from 1980 on, and he recently had died back in August of last year. He died in prison at age 75. So he was never released. And
oh God.
Edmund Kemper,
you know how he killed the victims?
Locked up in the same. What's that?
How did he kill his victims?
So he killed them. I think he killed them in a couple of. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it real short because it would take me a while, but I'll just go from his first to his last. So on October 13th of 1972, Mullen beat 55-year-old vagrant Lawrence Whitey White's head with a baseball bat when the transient looked at the engine of his 1958 Chevy station wagon after Mullen had pretended to have car trouble and pulled over, opening the hood. While White had offered to help fix his car in exchange for a ride. Mullen then dragged White's body into the woods where it was found the next day. He later claimed his victim looked like Jonah from the Bible and sent him telepathic messages. Hey man, pick me up and throw me over the boat. Kill me that others will be saved. And then his last victim was I'm just trying to get through. Okay, so his next killing, all right, it occurred as Mullen was driving firewood in his station wagon. He noticed his victim, a 72-year-old retired prize fighter and fishmonger named Fred Abbey Ramirez working in his garden in Santa Cruz. Mullen did a U-turn, came back down the street, stopped, put a rifle across I think the rest of his murders were by a gun. A rifle. He put the rifle across the hood of his car and shot him once in the heart. He committed this killing, believe it or not, in full sight of the dead man's neighbor who got Mullen's license plate. A few minutes later, after the description yeah, he did it right in front. Sounds like in broad daylight.
What did he keep? Lauren's asking what he kept.
Because they had to confuse him. I'm not sure this, like the time era that he was doing his killing, did it overlap the Son of Sam?
Yeah, no, I think that was a little bit later. I think that was in the mid to late 1970s. This was in the early 1970s when this occurred.
Okay, not the same guy I'm thinking.
Now, it's quite interesting bringing this up, like kind of bringing both of these killers together, but it's actually, here's something else you should know about too, Rosie, because you were asking how he killed them, in this case with Herbert Mullen. The police failed to recognize a pattern at the time of Mullen's murders due to several factors. Firstly, the murders did not appear to be connected by a similar weapon or modus operandi. Secondly, the victims differ from each other in terms of age, race, and sex. And finally, Edmund Kemper, who would kill the last of his own 8 victims just a few weeks later, was operating in approximately the same area at the same time. And what was kind of even more ironic was that both killers at one point were placed in the same cell block. It says, in fact, Mullen had interactions with Edmund Kemper. The two shared adjoining cells at one point. Now, believe it or not, Kemper disliked Mullen, saying he killed for no good reason. Kemper recalled, well, he had a habit of singing and bothering people when somebody tried to watch TV. So I threw water on him to shut him up. Then he was a good boy. I'd give him some peanuts. Herbie liked peanuts. That was effective because pretty soon he asked permission to sing. That's called behavior modification treatment. And then the only other thing that describes between the two killers is that Kemper would describe Mullen as having a lot of pain inside. He had a lot of anguish inside. He had a lot of hate inside. And it was addressed to people he didn't even know because he didn't dare do anything to the people he knew. In that same interview, Kemper called Mullen a kindred spirit there due to their similar past of being institutionalized. Kemper said he told Mullen, Herbie, I know what happened. Don't give me that bullshit about earthquakes and don't give me that crap about God was telling you. I says, you couldn't even be talking to me now, God talking to you because of the pressure I'm putting on you right now. These little shocking insights into what you did. God would start talking to you right now. You were that kind of ill because I grew up with people like that. So Kemper knew, Herbert was even crazier.
He was highly intelligent. He scored like really high on IQ tests. Kemper did.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, I should have mentioned, Herbert was among one of those serial killers, in addition, who supposedly murdered people because he claimed God had told him to do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the earthquakes. He thought he thought his dead dad and thought that God had told him to commit these murders, which we've seen in a lot of movies. I don't know if he was really the first killer to really act on that, but he was one of the first ones to get a lot of that type of media attention.
I would say he was schizophrenic, paranoid schizophrenic, probably.
Yeah, he was. He was diagnosed with it.
Okay. That's why he heard voices that God voices. They weren't God.
Yeah, he had a
subject to.
He was in his mid-20s. By the time he was in his mid-20s, he had been diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Of course, accelerated by the use of LSD and marijuana, which everybody was using at that time. Yep.
Oh. We've not even picked a subject for next week's show, so I'll leave it to one of you guys to pick one. Pick a subject. Come on, ladies and gents.
You have anything in mind, Nick? You have anything in mind?
Let's think here first. sec. Oh man, that's
No pressure,
damn it! You know, all
Nicholas.
this info we were. Oh crap! You know what? Now I kind of feel bad. We could have been talking a lot about the stuff I was telling about next week, because next week actually was the anniversary when these guys were caught. Damn it!
Was it really?
Jim
'cause,
Jones would be a
it was
good.
actually a few weeks of each other, but it was right around the time when I think it was Edmund Kemper that
We
got caught. Damn it!
we've
I should have
actually
saved it for next week.
Was it really?
did a show, Christine, on Charles Bronson. But what I will do is I'll come back to that, because there's a lot to Charles Bronson, especially you information. Sorry, I've got nail clippers in my hand, just in case MD thinks I'm banishing a weapon. Couldn't find my fidget spinner, so I'm playing with my nail clippers. So there's new information came out in Charles Bronson that would be interesting to hear people's opinion. Jim Jones, oh, my man's giving me the fidget spinner now. Jim Jones, I've not heard of that one, Sarah Louise, so that would be a good
Jones.
one.
Oh my god, I know who that is. I know who that is. All too well, Reverend Jim Jones. He was another primary example of a mass murderer. He didn't commit these murders, but he had ordered murders or suicides, if you want to put it that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, right, guys.
Later this year is
On
the
you go, honey.
45th anniversary of the Jonestown later this year is the 45th anniversary of the Jonestown Massacre.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, right? I worked in the list, right? Sarah Louise, I'll do yours next week, right? Christine, I'll come back to Charles Bronson in the next couple of weeks. Robert, I'll do beliefs the week after. Chantel, I'll get yours done as well, guys. Because what I really need to do now is I'm happy to announce that I've finally made an email address, but I've called it Friday Frighteners, but this show will be running under the email as well. So I'm happy to announce that. Also, I need to get myself a diary, because there's just so much happening that I really need to get diary, and because we're starting to get guests on, I want to be writing them down so that I know who's going where what. Also, on the 1st of June, we have the lovely Canadian Mr. Wes Coleman. I cannot wait. I am bouncing off the chandeliers for this one. The only difference with that night, guys, is Wes can only do 8 p.m, which is 8 p.m. our time, which would be for 3 for you guys.
That's
I think
2 o'clock. That's 2 o'clock my time.
2 o'clock. I'm absolutely bouncing off the walls for this one because I really love Wes. Tomorrow night's show, guys, is 1 a.m. into Saturday morning. We have David Deans from the Unseen Realm. I'm so looking forward to this one. It'll be well worth the lack of sleep. So, in case you don't know, what I'm going to say to you guys is, do not put pressure on you guys to stay up and watch it. It's always going to be there. Just watch it in playback, and I'll catch up with the comments, guys. As I said to my Frighteners team, whoever can make it, please, like for Brian Ian, please don't stay up just because of me. I was like, if you guys, I've sent them the link, and I've sent you the link, Nick. Please are more than welcome to come on with me. Eris, what is it? See, because I'm sitting here playing the fidget spinner, I've got my wee kitten jumping over the top of me to try and get it. Because I'm literally sitting here fidgeting with it. But as usual, guys, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for the guys that have been watching. I'm going to, as I said, look at subjects and things like that. But you all have a good weekend. Have you got any last words, my lovely friends?
Keep it creepy.
I want to point this out. Chantel just brought up one idea, which was infamous
I like that
couples
idea a
like
lot.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Mhm.
It's not a bad
Aye,
idea at all.
we'll
That's
get-
actually kind of a cool idea. We haven't done that yet.
We'll get that. As I said, I'll get all the subjects wrote down. Get a diary. Get that over the weekend. And obviously, I better stop this because Eris is wide-eyed. I can see her wide-eyed eyeing up my hand. So what I'll do is I'll get a diary, get everything wrote down, and then obviously I'll give you guys a copy in the chat. To what's. Have a good night, Lois. Always do.
Oh,
Always do, my darling. I'll see you later,
one
guys.
other thing, just before you get
Oh,
guys, wait, just one other thing, just before we get off. Is, of course, I'll
Yep,
keep
yep, yep,
everyone
yep.
posted about what's going to be going on over here because the watch is still in effect. I actually ditched the weather radar. There is something coming this way. I just hope it's not, necessarily
Oh,
tornadoes hitting our area, but there is something coming. There is actually just like you, Rose, just came across on YouTube. There's a Weather Chasers video down in, I think more down in central Illinois. I think they're heading up north, so they're following the storm as well. So I'm definitely going to be keep everyone posted. But in the meantime, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on things because it could get bad. Of course, I'm also telling everyone too, since just a few hours now, we also got Supernatural Talk. So if I'm on Supernatural Talk, I think that will tell you guys immediately that we're fine here in one piece, but the watch is still in effect until at least about 7 or 8 o'clock. So there's like I said, something is coming. I just don't know exactly what.
Please stay safe, Nick. Please.
Yeah.
Get to your basement.
Right now and raining really hard here.
Yeah.
I'm going to Gorilla Glue your ass to that basement.
Yeah, we got our basement, so we're all set to go. But I'm just more hoping that our house is still standing in the end.
I'll be thinking you guys really will be.
Pray for Oklahoma too.
Uh,
Yeah.
No way, he's on it. A ton of Gorilla Glue. It won't come out. Honestly, the houses will be safe. Just put Gorilla Glue
Yeah,
everywhere and stick yourself to the walls and hope for the best.
Hey, there you go. That's another way to start rebuilding houses. Just use Gorilla Glue.
Gorilla Glue killer.
Love you, Terry. But Nick,
to the wall.
Nick, remember, Gorilla Glue, don't put it on your hands because I don't want it to be sticking anywhere.
Bottom line is, we had, of course, with all the severe weather, like for Rosie, pray for Illinois and Oklahoma.
I'm praying for you all, guys. Praying for you all. Take care, guys.